Wizard is the biggest problem in Dark and Darker Mobile right now, especially in solo mode. They are powerful, very annoying, and super hard to counter. But not everyone knows how to build them properly yet. So without further ado, welcome to my ultimate solo wizard guide. In this video, I'll not only teach you how to build an incredibly powerful wizard, I'll also give you a few tips on how to counter it based on what weaknesses it has. First things first. This build is more effective in solo goblin caves. Trios is a little harder as there are more targets to burst and you won't have the highest raw damage. It works really well, providing your team can help you burst. But in solos, this build is dangerous, period. Alright, let's start with stats. The most important core stats for Wizard are Knowledge, Wisdom, and Vigor. Knowledge is where raw magic damage comes from, both flat and magic bonus. Wisdom is for utility, it increases cast speed, reduces cooldown, and also magic penetration. And Vigor increases HP and HP recovery. For this build, we will focus on Wisdom and cast speed. For reference, my Wizard right now has a 56.4% base cast speed. That's fast. And that's not even in-game. In-game, I reach 70%. One off, if not the fastest casting wizard in the game currently. This build allows me to fully stagger lock anyone I want, including wizards with the exact same build but have lower cast speed. People think that wizard needs a high amount of knowledge for increased damage. While raw damage is great, it's not optimal. This build actually came from me being killed by another wizard called PvPX. He had the same build as me, but casted faster. I just couldn't cast. So what if I had higher damage than him? I couldn't even cast. This is when I spent some time to really rework my build. Right now, people don't have a lot of magic defense and resistance, so you'll often find that wizards will deal enough damage to kill people without overstacking raw damage. This is your first whiz counter tip, by the way, guys. Stack up on your magic defenses and magic reduction rates. Sacrifice some of that physical defense and invest in some magic reduction and resistance. Many of you, if not all, will agree that wizards are the #1 problem in the game right now. So gear up for them! Anyway, the reason why we're gonna focus on wisdom and cast speed is because of one single skill. Thunder Strike, a lightning skill that has a medium-sized hit area, electrifies targets every time you hit them, meaning they'll take an extra 5% damage per stack up to 3 stacks. And it also staggers targets. Stagger cancels all attacks, skills, and potion use. Yup. It's disgusting. Not only that, if you follow this build, you'll be wearing the Shock passive, which also gives you a 10% chance to stun electrified targets with any skill. Not just with lightning skills, but also Mystic, Fire, Ice, and even Melee. Which means, if you deal a decent amount of damage, you'll be better off investing in cast speed. Before we get into skills and gear, let's talk about Vigor. It's always important to have as much HP as you can possibly grab. You will get hit. Sometimes you'll even want to bait players into hitting you and you want to tank the first hit to set up a cancel combo. Sometimes you'll fight another wizard. And sometimes NPCs will even hit you mid-PvP. HP is always good. Period. Now that's out of the way, let's talk about where your damage is actually gonna come from. Collections. Yup, not gear, not skills, collections. Collections give characters permanent stat boosts. I've always said collections are far more important than gear. Put it this way, if you spend all your gold into gear and you die and lose that gear, them stats are gone. But if you invest into collections, you'll never lose them. You'll only add on top of the collections with your gear stats. There aren't many submissions that increases cast speed. So this is where I figured that investing in wisdom and cast speed stats on gear is better than knowledge and damage, because we can just get the damage boost from collections. What I did was, if you're gonna spend the gold to buy the submission pieces, prioritize unlocking the base permanent collections first. Then upgrade them to 4 stars. These permanent collections are found in the common tab. Season and events get wiped at the end of every season, so money-wise, don't really prioritize them. I won't even bother taking them to 5 stars. Just too expensive. Sell the items and invest elsewhere. So, with our damage coming predominantly from collections, we now have the budget to buy wisdom and cast speed pieces. Obviously, I hope it goes without saying, if you can get magic damage and penetration along the way, that's better. But yeah, we will focus on cast speed and some HP. Right now, my wizard has 308 HP. I think that's a respectable level for a Wiz. This amount of HP significantly reduces the chances of getting one-shotted by any class. I've still yet to get one-shotted by anyone. It took 3 barbs to gang up on me to kill me in 3-0s. So yeah, I parted at 308. Anyway, here's how fast I currently cast. Yup, nasty! If you can get your base cast speed to around 50%, start working on your damage. Start getting pieces to help you do 100 damage per thunder. That's a really nice place to be in. Once you reach 100, 110 damage per thunder, start stacking cast speed again. Why? Because that's 500 to 550 damage in one sitting. But how is that 500 and above if thunder only has 4 max users? This is where our gear comes in. Firstly, Spellbook is a must-have. This thing alone adds plus 30% cast speed to the build, literally more than half of my entire cast speed. It also has high-ish base magic damage. The magic damage basically goes Staff being the highest, Crystal Ball, then Book, then Crystal Sword. Even though Staff has the highest damage, Book just offers way more benefits overall. Most importantly, Spellbook has a skill that allows you to copy your last skill used. So after spamming that Thunder Strike 4 times in a row, using the Book skill allows you to cast a 5th Thunder Strike. That's 500 plus damage if you follow my guide today. How many players do you see running that much HP? Look, the only way this damage wouldn't work are 2 things. Fighting another wizard or cleric, as they have naturally high magic defenses, or fighting a non-wiz or cleric player that has high magic defenses. Another pro tip counter strat: get a wizard to spam cast his thunder 5 times. Just worry about surviving that. Make them miss using covers and movement. Avoid rushing them because honestly, that's what I actually want people to do. I want them to come to me so I can actually melt them in front of me. If they run away, it's harder to chase them, they can close doors, I'll aggro mobs, making my push harder. It's harder and longer to kill runners. Whereas people that rush straight to me, I can literally melt them in 3 seconds tops. So yeah, use the map. Once their thunder is on cooldown, you can rush them and just dodge their secondary spells. Trust me, it's much easier to dodge them than a Thunder Strike. Anyway, before I cover my secondary elements, skills, and weapon, here are my passive abilities. Concentration. This is a must for the build. It gives a 15% magic bonus boost. Even if it increases the cost of all skills by 15%, I have a counter for this. Keep watching. Shock. This allows me to stun electrified targets with any hit at a 10% chance. Spells or melee, it doesn't matter. This is super crazy paired up with high cast speed. Then we have Lightning Mastery for plus 10 movement speed and a whopping plus 15% cast speed bonus while our lightning element is active, which now takes this build to 70% cast speed. Yes sir! Last slot goes to Mystic Mastery. Now, many people will choose Ice or Fire as a second element for more crowd control or damage, but I like Mystic for a number of reasons. It's more personal preference though, but yeah, here are my reasons. When Lightning is on cooldown, I switch to Mystic. Mystic Mastery increases knowledge by 8. That's a huge increase in damage. So when I switch to Mystic and use Magical Dab for extra DPS, I'll still deal decent amount of damage to finish enemies off or try to stun them. Because remember, they'll still be electrified. Mystical Jab is also nice for clearing out mobs, deals good damage and doesn't cost much willpower. Oh, fast cooldown too. Which brings me to my next point. Mystic Mastery also increases willpower recovery by 2. So right now I have a total of 6. This allows me to rarely use so many blue pots for willpower recovery. I literally just bring 2 support blue pots and a couple of the bigger ones which I very rarely use. Counter pro tip: if you see a wizard backing off and just stop pushing you, that could mean 2 things. They're low on willpower and have to pot up, or they're on cooldown. Rush them. Anyway, my second mystic skill is invisibility. This one's purely for removing aggro off NPCs. As a solo wizard, my focus when I play is to hunt players down. I don't really loot many chests or kill mobs to loot. Waste of time and you can get ganked by a third party. So what I do is run around and go invisible to take off NPC aggro when I get close to a door and have to open it. Once they walk away because I've gone invisible, I open the door. This is how I move around the map very fast and efficiently. This is also how I find players fast. Invisibility is also great before pushing. It's always nice to have that little bit of element of surprise when attacking. Now, it does show your location in a white silhouette every few few seconds, but still, any form of stealth is nice. You can also go invisible if you're about to die and someone is chasing you. I normally run behind a corner, pop invisibility, wait for the player to get close, then teleport behind them to either run or burst them down. Which brings me to the final skill, Flash, aka Blink, or teleport. I call it Blink because it sounds cooler. Anyway, Blink is my all-time favorite skill in any game. I love teleport, so it's a must-have for me. I use this mainly to evade, but sometimes I also use this to push enemies. Be careful though, Blink doesn't have any iframes. Iframes stand for invisible frames, meaning even though you puffed into nothing and you're about to teleport out, if someone attacks you while you're gone and it actually connects, you will get hit and taken out of that teleport. Anyway, people will get confused why a Wiz is running directly at them, so I run at them, then blink behind them, and as soon as they start to attack, this not only makes them miss, but also catches them off guard and disorients them while I stagger and stun them. I just love Blink and all the combos that you can do with it. So that's our skill set, but what about the rest of the gear? Like, what actual gear pieces do we buy? What second weapon do I use? Well, let's start with a second weapon. I choose Crystal Ball for the sole purpose of free wall hacks. This skill is bonkers. When used, it highlights players on both the map and through walls. So it's very good for chasing runners or finding invisible players like rogues and wizards. Oh, also great for finding players that used an invisible part. This wall hack ability has 10 users, so you can spam it in game and you'll find that you don't even use the 10 charges. I also tend to use it before I open doors. You never know who's hiding on the opposite side. Lastly, it also has a basic attack that launches an orb that seeks close targets. Literally free aimbot. The orb moves slow though, so it's not great against players that moves a lot. They can't dodge it, and it has very low damage. But you can use it as a last resort if your willpower is empty and you're also on cooldown on all spells. Some people prefer sword because it's nice against rushers, but honestly, melee mage is never optimal. We're just too squishy. As for staff, the only use you'll get from it is its magic damage buff skill. That's it. So yeah, ball is the way. For the rest of the gear, honestly, it doesn't really matter which specific piece that you get. The only thing I'd prioritize making a big investment on is the Twilight Elementalist gloves. Very expensive, but it has a plus 5% cast speed base stat. So find one of these gloves with good additional stats, you'll be cooking. As for the rest, any wizard suitable stuff will do just fine. As long as you get the right base stats and additional stats combined, the numbers will always yield the same results. Regarding my playstyle, it's pretty straightforward, which is why wizards are a big problem right now. I normally just rush in and zap people to oblivion. My first 2 zaps will tell me how the other player is geared. If I see my damage doing well, I'll keep bursting to kill. If I notice I'm doing less, I'll keep my distance, zap, and switch to my mystic, then jabs. If a player starts pushing me, I ain't running away, because I can just blink if I want to. And like I said at the start, I actually prefer if they're close. If a two-handed weapon player pushes me, I'll just stand there and wait for them to attack. I'll zap them mid-animation and cancel their shit. Then empty my spells on them. Rangers, I'll zap from a distance. They have draw delay on their attacks and it's hard for them to hit the shots. Plus, they won't be shooting anything. I'll literally stagger them all the time. Rogues, easiest to kill. Just zap. Honestly, if they get close, blink. Now, the main problem is another wizard. A good wizard will give you the most exciting fights. A good wizard can kill a highly geared wizard with mechanics. 2 equally good wizards fighting will be overturned by cast speed, because like I said, he who cannot cast dies. As for more counter strats, there's honestly not that many right now, but here are a few things that you can do. One solid counter will always be stacking up on magic defenses. That's the start. Sacrifice some of that physical defense because you can learn to dodge physical attacks. And you should learn how to dodge physical attacks. That's literally the core mechanic of the game. So if you get good at dodging physical attacks, why the need for super high physical defenses? Thunderstrike has got to be the hardest skill to dodge right now because it's a big area hit and you've got motherfuckers like me casting them so fast. So try and tank them instead. The other thing is don't wear plate armor or armor pieces with high movement speed debuffs. I wear mostly leather pieces on my barbarian. Movement is king in this game. If you can move fast, you'll get hit less. Even though you will have lower flat defenses, you'll move fast and make the enemies miss. If they hit, you'll have some additional stats like magic resist or physical damage resist from your gear. That will help mitigate the damage taken anyway. What I'm saying is, don't get blinded by the defense numbers. Escape stones. Always bring one escape stone if you have them. Firstly, even if you die, the escape stone will stay in your inventory so you'll never lose them. So if you somehow by some miracle go get away from a wizard and you really don't think you can kill them, get out. Just keep one in your inventory. You don't even have to use it. That one taken slot in your bag can save your entire gear and loot. Just bloody take one every raid. Look, I'm not gonna lie and say wizard doesn't need a nerf, because it does. That's why I've decided to park it and only play it with support gear now in Nightmare. It's too powerful and I just got bored. I've gone back to my barbarian who's a lesser demon. Anyway, to close this guide up, if you see a player named Balance on your kill feed, just use an escape stone and get out. Peace!